Hi, my name is Joel Gregory and I'm the General Manager for 12D Solutions. Today I'm going to be covering what's new in 12D Synergy version 3. Synergy is 12D's data management and project collaboration tool, and it's been used widely across Australia and New Zealand by consultants, contractors, surveyors and even government departments, from very small businesses to super large multinational companies. So it's really exciting, and I'm glad I can show you all the features that are in version 3. Now, one of the main features are the file replication servers. Now, what this allows, if you've got multiple offices, you can put a file replication, say in Brisbane, and then all your files can be cached locally in Brisbane, so users there can have LAN-like speeds. It allows a large company to have an enterprise access to their data, and you can roll out company-wide one system. We've also got data syncing for contractors, and this is mainly for large construction projects where at the moment they have trouble synchronizing data from a central database model to 12D Field and other applications running on tablets. So we've got a data syncing tool which pushes that data out to the tablets and also brings the data back in to the central database model. Now, other features, connectors, ways to bring in and export data from 12D Synergy. So first of all, there's an import from CSV, so now you can bring all your contact information in really quickly. And we've also integrated with a lot of the financial packages. So the idea here is that jobs are created in these financial packages. It might have information, attributes such as address, some financial information. And Synergy, once a job is created in those products, Synergy will recognize that and populate 12D Synergy with that job and the associated templates, so a folder structure, potential files, tasks associated to the correct people. To create jobs, you just update in one place in the financial package, and then that information flows into Synergy. So there's only a single source of truth there for that data. You're not manually entering things multiple times. So products such as Abtrac, MYOB, Workflow Max and Xero are all integrated out of the box. We also integrate with some of the Microsoft products such as SharePoint, their data management system, and Microsoft Dynamics, their CRM as well. In Synergy there is a scripting language which allows us to connect to different products, and you can also utilize that scripting engine to connect to any other system out there. General updates, we've got watch folders. So if you've got administration staff that do scanning, they might not even be users of 12D Synergy. They just scan the documents, put it in a network folder location, and Synergy will detect the file exists and automatically suck that information into 12D Synergy and add the appropriate attributes. We have companies in version 3. Staff members can be associated with companies, and of course companies can have attributes, and those attributes can be used throughout the system. So companies are really useful if you want to search for staff. So say if you're issuing a document, you can actually search by a company name rather than the actual staff member. You can now copy 12D model projects. And also to help with the upgrading process, because you may have several hundred users there, we've now got an auto upgrader so that when the server upgrades, all clients, when they next contact the server, they can push that data down to them and then it can auto install for them, just making the upgrade process much easier. Of course, that file can be located on a website if you don't want to slow down the network sending these files around. To get a complete audit trail in 12D Synergy, it's important to have a description every time you change a file. Now, in version 3, we've made it even easier to create descriptions, predefined descriptions, and you can even select descriptions using your numbers on the keyboard. So I've just made it much easier to get it in there. Tasks have been a really popular feature in 12D Synergy. A lot of clients have put all their business workflows in as tasks in Synergy, and this option for inline task previewing will make it even easier. So sometimes workflows will actually be written in the description of a task, and now you can just toggle through the different tasks and you can see the preview information down below, meaning you don't have to open up each task to see the description. It just makes tasks a lot easier to use. All users can now get personal jobs automatically created. That means it's an area that you can store personal documents or even file away personal emails, or just do some testing in an area that's not in a work environment. Now, it's always important when you exit 12D Synergy that you check in all your documents. In version 3 we've made that a lot easier because there's this nag screen, so when you try and close Synergy, if anything's checked out, it'll actually pop up and say, hang on, you've got these 3 files that need to be checked back in, and you can select them, check them all back in, and then exit the program. Just makes it a lot easier. We've really sped up a lot of the browsing and file listing, especially now we've got so many enterprise clients on board. We're just making it much better and scale a lot better for those larger businesses. The ability to enforce naming rules on the file names of data in 12D Synergy has been a really popular feature. Now in version 3 we've also got auto-incrementing rules. So when you upload a group of, say, site photos, it'll automatically give it picture 1, picture 2, picture 3. There's also 3 settings of the auto-incrementer. So one is an individual counter at the folder level, another one is at the job level, and for a system-wide view. So for a certain job, you might have DWG files that you want unique numbers job-wide, or potentially, Word documents, you want a counter that resets system-wide. So you've got that real control to be able to enforce your naming conventions across the entire business. Also, for our clients over in NZ, we've now got a TIFF converter when uploading TIFFs to Land Online, so that should be a bit of a time saver for you in New Zealand. For clients sending large file types over some potentially unreliable internet connections, you'll be pleased to know that file transfers can now resume if your internet actually drops out, so that could save you a lot of time. Email management. We've now got a drop zone so that you can drag and drop files into that area and they'll automatically be filed away to 12D Synergy. For popular programs like Word, Excel and Outlook, we've got ribbon bars so that you can do all the standard options like check-in, check-out, add attributes and other things straight from the programs that you're used to working. Now for Outlook, the ribbon bar now has a button that you can save attachments from the emails, which makes it really, really easy. Connecting emails to contacts is really about conversation tracking, so that threads in an email will be grouped together. It's also, when you look at contact information, you can also see all the emails that have been sent to and from that contact. For many clients, the email management feature has actually been the sole reason for them adopting the 12D Synergy system. To save emails to Synergy automatically, we use what we call an email stamp. Now this stamp is put in the subject line, and as soon as you receive an email with that stamp, it automatically gets filed away to Synergy. Now if you have a conversation where that stamp is kept in the subject line, you don't actually have to do anything, those emails will be filed away. Now we had a request from a client that the stamp be created by multiple attributes inside the job. So the job may have a discipline and a region involved, and then those two combined make up the stamp for that job. So in future that can be saved away. So just again a bit more power and flexibility in the email management side. The AutoCAD plugins now work with Civil 3D. For MX users, all the reference tracking is now rock solid, which is great. AutoCAD fans will be happy to know that the latest AutoCAD 2016 and 17 already work for version 3, and the latest BricsCAD version also works. There's an option in version 3.2 to scan 12D Synergy and find any broken references. So in a DWG file, that'd be XREFs, and if they're broken, then there's a system to easily reattach those XREFs. The publishing system inside of 12D Synergy is kind of like Dropbox, where you save the files away and then you send someone a web browser link, they open it up in the browser, and they can download the files. So really good for large files that don't fit into email, something that's like 20, 30 megabytes or even larger. Well, for version 3 we've added extra security, so it's now HTTPS. When a user publishes a file as well, 12D Synergy registers when that file's actually been downloaded. So from a document transmittal perspective, you've actually got a digital record confirming that the client downloaded it and the date and the user that downloaded it. So it's fully trackable. Version 3.2, we introduced the idea of a web drop, which is kind of like reverse publishing. Essentially, you select an area in Synergy that you want the files to go. You then send the client a web link. They go onto the website, drag and drop some files in, fill out the attribute information that you've requested, and then hit send, and it'll actually send those files back into the system. So we've now got a way to send and receive data from clients who may not have 12D Synergy. Finally too, for the transmittals, you can now issue entire folder structures rather than individual files. When issuing two, rather than just sending it to one person, you can also now send lots of CCs in, and again that's tracked and managed for you. We started by meeting with survey managers from major construction companies across Australia and New Zealand. We showed them Synergy, they loved it, and they told us about a problem they were having synchronizing data from the central database model that the survey managers were manipulating and pushing that data to the surveyors who may be using 12D Field on a Windows-based tablet. So we thought we could integrate a lot of these tools into 12D Synergy. The limited or inconsistent internet available on these construction sites was a real limiting factor to what we had to create with the Sync tool. Particularly on major tunnel projects which have adopted the product, internet isn't available at all. 12D Synergy has a really robust 12D model check-in check-out possible. However, this isn't possible for a lot of projects in the field if the internet isn't actually consistent. And not just the internet connection, but the survey managers didn't actually want to have to manage entire 12D model projects being pushed backwards and forwards. They preferred just importing the 12DA, the field files and other reports that they needed to get the job done, and just getting an audit trail on those specific files rather than the massive projects that end up being in 12D model. We have a standard check-in check-out process for 12D model projects, but again this might not be possible in the field if the internet is not guaranteed. Furthermore, the survey manager, when receiving data from surveyors, probably doesn't want the entire 12D model projects to perform his QA checks. He would much prefer a small 12DA file and the appropriate field files and any other related individual files, and makes it much easier for an audit trail than to track the projects rather than sending entire 12D model projects backwards and forwards. So we spoke to a whole load of clients all over Australia and New Zealand, survey managers, surveyors, and really specified their problem that we could overcome. Now, first of all, it was about sending data from a central database that the survey manager is working on and pushing that data to the tablets that the surveyors are working on. Now, that could be set overnight, or alternatively, it could be manually set whenever the survey manager wished. Now the reality is tablets may be disconnected for long periods of time. So a full shift, 8, 12 hours, the tablets could be out there, particularly in a tunnel environment where there'd be no internet available. The reverse would also need to be possible. Data from the tablets at the end of a shift need to come back into the central database model. And again, this could happen automatically when the surveyor brings his tablet back in the office, or when he manually selects it, maybe if he did have an internet connection. Now this whole process, the download and the upload, there needs to be a complete audit trail every time the data is moved across. And similarly, the survey manager and the surveyor want feedback. They want to know if the data has successfully transferred, or they want a warning if some of the data hasn't transferred, because there's nothing worse than synchronization where it's actually failed and you don't know that it's failed, and you can continue working thinking that you've got the most up-to-date data, but you haven't. So that feedback loop is really critical. The other key thing here too was reducing the data footprint by only sending the change data. You don't want to have to send more data than you want to, because the network speeds aren't always the fastest, and the more data you're sending, the longer it takes. So we came together that this was the general workflow that we had. You had a central database model controlled by the survey manager. He's got some natural surfaces in there, design data, and some documentation. Now when he's happy with that data set, he will then push that data to the individual surveyors' tablets. Normally ruggedized PCs that they take 12D field into the field. At the end of the shift, the surveyor will come back into the office, and either automatically or manually, the as-built surveys, field files, and the QA reports will be pushed back into the server. Now, there's opportunity there to pass QA checks that are required before that data is then integrated back into that central database model. Now, every step of this process, there's a full audit trail. Everything is managed, and the survey manager has complete control of the process. This diagram gives an overview of the synchronization process. You can see the survey manager, using the 12D Synergy client, will create a task, select the data which he wants to synchronize. He'll also select the user or the teams of users that will be synchronized that data. Then the sync tool will actually process that and synchronize the data across. When it's completed for each individual user, there will be the task will be completed, and an email update will be notified once it's all completed. The other direction is quite similar. After a day's work, the surveyor selects the appropriate files, the 12DAs, the field files, the QA reports. He then uploads it back to the central server. Importantly here, the survey manager will be notified when there's data waiting to be reintegrated and run through the QA reports. Because there's no point in the data sitting there waiting to be added, and the survey manager doesn't know about it. So getting that feedback is really important. You're also in control on when the synchronizations take place. So you can configure the syncs to wait for instructions from management. You can prompt the user before running. Or you can make sure that it's always running at certain times. So for instance, at midnight the synchronization will happen, and then it'll download all the information at 5 AM to make sure that for the next shift, everyone's ready with the most up-to-date data. The upload process is easily automated using chains or macros, which will go collect the appropriate data and upload it back to the Synergy system. Surveyors are quite used to running on a toolbar or running a macro, so it should be a very straightforward process.
Hi, my name is Richard Stollier and I'm the Technical Lead for 12D Synergy. In this session, we'll be talking about file replication servers. In a regional or global work sharing environment, there can be a large amount of traffic running between all your offices. File replication servers help you significantly reduce the amount of traffic between those offices or sites by synchronizing and caching files in the background. This means that when people come in for work, they can be sure that the files that they need are sitting there waiting for them, and they don't have to wait for large transfer times across the internet. I'd like to take this opportunity to take a quick look at the 12D Synergy landscape to give you a better picture of how the file replication servers fit into the picture. Essentially, regardless of where you are, whether you're inside the office or out, you're typically connecting to one centralized 12D Synergy server. And this is essentially the model in version 2. You can already use 12D Synergy to work share in a distributed environment without using the FRS. So if you have offices in Brisbane and Sydney and Melbourne, your users can still access data from any of those offices using 12D Synergy, and our intelligent data transfer tools help reduce the bandwidth significantly by only delivering the changes that people need. However, if there are multiple people in the same office accessing the same data, then the first time they do this, they're all going to be delivered the same change. So if you've got 5 people in your Brisbane office opening the same 12D model project, or rather the same version of the same 12D model project, they're all going to get a copy of the changes the first time. And these changes could be large. So there are still some efficiencies that 12D Synergy can give you when you use the FRS. So the 12D Synergy landscape with file replication servers is a little bit different. Everybody still connects to the centralized 12D Synergy server for all their metadata or informational needs to list which files are available, which 12D model projects are available, who has made what changes, to search for information, and all that sort of stuff. But this doesn't take up much bandwidth. It's actually very quick to access that sort of information. All that heavy load is really in the file transfer. So with a file replication server, you put a file replication server at each of your remote offices, and instead, when you request a file, the users get the files from there instead. And overnight, or at various scheduled intervals, the synchronization occurs to transfer files between your 12D Synergy server and all your remote file replication servers. And you can set up all sorts of rules about how and when this occurs and the different types of files. For example, only transfer ECWs overnight, but maybe transfer 12D model project changes every hour. This makes sure that your users can really quickly access the data they need and allow that transfer to happen in the background, rather than having to sit around and wait for it to be available. The FRS is really ideal for sites with popular data sets that are being used by many users at different sites. So rather than making them all wait for it to be downloaded the first time they open it, you can push it out to that local network to make it much faster. It's great for data-heavy environments with more than one site. So if you've got really large ECWs and you don't want people to pull those down all the time, you can have those pre-populated onto the remote office FRS. Alternatively, it's very good for environments with sites that have significantly reduced bandwidth. So if you've got a site office that you need to have access to 12D Synergy, it's a temporary office, it may not have the best connection to the internet or your network, so the FRS can help you out by transferring the data when people are in their downtime or away from the office. So we've got an example here of a multi-office solution running the FRS. So the main server sits in Sydney, and then you have FRS nodes at each of these. Now, these little lines here actually explain the way the data is being transferred. So, and this is important to note, not every connection is the same. Some offices have faster connections, some have slower connections. So the FRS is set up to allow various types of network topologies so that people can basically route the data down the best paths. So for example, Geelong may have not a great connection through to Sydney, they've got a better connection through to Melbourne. So you can force the files to take that transfer path so that you can take advantage of your network topologies. Thank you very much for your time in watching the What's New in 12D Synergy. We hope that this has been informative and that you're all excited about some of these new features. Please do contact us if you have any questions. Thank you very much.